We're on, Greg.
We
it's
are.
another edition of the Penn State Blitz here on Penn Live. Penn State is 10-2.
Yes.
They're going to go to a nice bowl. We'll get to that later. We got 4 excellent segments. They just defeated Maryland with ease, 66-3. But the Blitz never dies.
No.
Even when the season's over, we got so much to talk about. It's scary. Just remember, you guys, you can get the Penn Live Penn State channel. Subscribe to it on YouTube. You do that by going to youtube.com/allpennstategreg. The All Big Ten defensive and special teams selections were released today. The offensive selections will be released later this week. But Penn State had quite a few people both on defense and on special teams.
Yeah, no question about it. Saquon Barkley, the only unanimous pick for Penn State as a kick returner. Of course, the media and coaches both selected him as a first-teamer. Yeah. Marcus Allen, a first-team pick of the coaches at safety, a second-team media pick. Then a whole group of guys finished on second-team or third-team between the media and the coaches after that. Jason Kabinda gets a nod on the second team. Amani Oruwariye was a second-team pick. Curiously absent Grant Haley. I think that was the one that caught a lot of people by surprise. He was an honorable mention pick. It's hard to really put too much stock into that, Bob, just because of the fact that they list so many guys that it's almost like a catch-all, for lack of a better term. So I'm surprised he was not a first, second, or third team pick by either group. But Blake Gillikin also getting a second team nod. Sharif Miller. I think that's all. Although I might be missing one. DeAndre Tompkins. That's the other one. Yep. As a punt returner, he was a second choice by the coaches and a third by the media. So good representation, Bob, and we'll see on Wednesday about the offense.
Yeah, and Barkley returned 2 kicks for touchdowns, including the opening kickoff against Ohio State. Tompkins had a kick return, I believe, against Akron for a score. I don't think it's a surprise that Marcus Allen got some first-team recognition for all that he does for Penn State, especially in run support. Mm-hmm. When I think about Grant Haley, I think it was just hard. You know, in Penn State's games where they struggled, the Ohio State game, the Michigan State game, you know, it's hard to see 3 guys from the secondary getting a lot of love. I mean, I think when Amani Oruwariye got his notice, it was going to be tough. It was probably an either-or situation because there's a lot of teams in the conference. Grant Haley's had a great career at Penn State. What he did last year in the Wisconsin and the Ohio State games are going to be remembered by Penn State fans forever. And he's still got one more game to play. Maybe he'll be a little bit more motivated. But I thought it was a pretty solid representation by the Penn State team on defense and on special teams. I was glad to see Jason Kabinda get recognized. And I really thought Blake Gillikin, you could have made a strong case that he was the top punter in the Big Ten. That's first down, Greg. Second down, we got to talk about the bowls.
That's right.
There's some big cities Penn State fans could be traveling to see their team, depending on how everything shakes out in the next week. They could be going to Dallas. They could be going to Miami. Who knows? They could be going to the desert for the Fiesta Bowl. How would you assess kind of where Penn State's at with both seasons?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think the projections are almost all pointing them to the Cotton Bowl, and that makes sense, but it's also assuming in a lot of ways whether Wisconsin or whether Ohio State ends up winning the game. So on Saturday, of course, the Big Ten title game, 8 p.m., I believe Fox televises.
That's right.
I mean, I could see any number of places. The interesting thing to keep in mind here, and a couple of you have brought it up so far this week, is that Ohio State's been in the Fiesta Bowl a lot recently.
Right.
They probably are not going to go back there. Somebody from the Big Ten is probably going to go there. So if Wisconsin gets into the playoff and Ohio State and Penn State are both in the running for that bowl, Penn State probably is more likely to go to Arizona. But right now the picks are pretty heavily skewed towards the Cotton Bowl, though the Notre Dame loss does make the Orange Bowl interesting because they were perceived to be the team to go there against what is most assumed will be Miami. Now that's back in play too. So I don't think you'll be able to book any flights, any hotels until probably Sunday sometime because last year, Bob, you know, it was the Rose Bowl or bust. So, but this year the board is pretty wide open.
For selfish reasons, Greg, I want to see them play in the Orange Bowl. That means you and I can spend some time in Fort Lauderdale. There's a Bermani Brothers in Fort Lauderdale, one of my favorite places to eat and do other things. So I'm really rooting, I think, for Miami, but I could live with Dallas as well. We'll see. After a 10-2 season, though, certainly Penn State's going to get. They look like they're locked into a New Year's Six bowl, so that's great. You know, now that the regular season is over, recruiting really never stops for James Franklin. He even talked about it in the post-game presser after the Maryland game. They were going to have some guys, I think, out on the road the next day. And he's been kind of busy doing some recruiting things. Where has he been of note?
Yeah. here, there, and everywhere. He started this Monday, which was the contact period started on Sunday. I'm sure a couple of guys went out after they got back from Maryland, but with the bus ride and everything, I would assume most guys left Sunday night to be ready for Monday morning first thing.
Yeah.
James Franklin was among them. Him and Terry Smith went down to Texas. They checked in with Trent Gordon. He's a 2018 commit.
Right.
Also Isaiah Humphreys, his dad Leonard, of course, played for Penn State. Longtime commit. He's going to enroll in January, so James and they did the house in-home visit last night. You're allowed one with each recruit between now and February 7th. So they did that last night as he plans to sign on December 20th and then enroll. And then on Tuesday, Franklin trekked up with Charles Huff to see Jake Pinniger, the commit in Iowa, so the kicker commit. So that was where they've been so far. They're going to keep at it. They have until December 17th to be out on the road, and they're not going to waste much of it.
Yeah, and December, like you said, December 20th, a signing day. You know, it's really creeping up fast on us. There's still, you know, Micah Parsons, the Harrisburg High School standout, very much, it sounds like, in play for Penn State. So I'm sure Penn State fans are going to be eagerly awaiting that day. There's a chance Penn State could have just a spectacular day.
Like with pre-Christmas.
With all the players that may sign, some guys may be coming in early. Could really be a fascinating December, especially if Micah would make a decision and you know, sign with Penn State. That would be great.
Yes.
Fourth down. The show's flying by.
It is.
It's just flying by.
It's like the season. Just, you can't believe it's almost done.
I think you and I knew we were probably going to be talking about this at some point.
Right.
Joe Moorhead, Penn State's offensive coordinator, just completed his second year as far as the regular season goes. They put up a ton of points, you know, down the stretch. He's been mentioned in connection with the Mississippi State job, which came open when Dan Mullen took the Florida job.
Yeah.
It sounds like an interesting mix with Joe Moorhead, a guy with Pittsburgh roots, and he's coached on the East Coast, you know, pretty much all his life, and Mississippi State. But apparently there's some serious interest there. What do you make of the maybe the connection there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, his footprint is in this part of the country. So the question that has never really been asked or answered, at least publicly by Joe Moorhead, is would he consider leaving the Northeast to go and pursue a head coaching job somewhere? He was asked about it at length at the Rose Bowl, before the Rose Bowl last year. He said, you know, I was told once that there's three things you got to consider, and family, you know, money, and job security, I believe were the three, something along those lines. But, I mean, it's all about where he can be happy and where his family can be happy. Is Mississippi State that place, and where are they at in their progression? There seems like there's a lot of hotshot coordinators, which Joe Moorhead is, vying for that job. So I don't even know, you know, it's hard to sort of parse it and see, is he involved because he's a hot commodity, or is he involved because there's a very legitimate chance he could go there? We'll have to wait and see, but it'll be interesting to find out how many other jobs he's linked to. I suspect, barring him taking this one, this is not the first job he is going to be linked to between now and probably February when this all wraps up. Yeah,
and I'm just wondering, you know, would Joe have a conversation with James Franklin, who coached at Vanderbilt, about what it's like in the SEC, what's the culture like, you know, down there? It's obviously a little bit different, I think, than the Big Ten. Every conference has its own, you know, specific things that you have to kind of deal with, and it's crazy in the SEC. I just wonder maybe if Joe would actually run it by James, or maybe he's just I don't know how far along he's in the process, but it's interesting to see how serious this gets, and also if he doesn't take the job, what other job will he be linked to in the next couple of weeks. Those are the four downs here on Penn State Blitz here on Penn Live. We got a couple topics to tackle here in the overtime session. One is we haven't even talked about the Big Ten title game. Ohio State, Wisconsin, Saturday night, 8 o'clock. Ohio State's favored. JT Barrett got roughed up by a camera, apparently,
someone's
in the Michigan
camera. We
game,
don't know who.
And Urban Meyer is not happy about it. But they're in good hands with that backup quarterback. He looked pretty good against Michigan.
Dwayne Haskins.
Wisconsin's unbeaten. They're the underdog. I think everyone, when they think about Ohio State and Wisconsin, they immediately flash to the 2014 Big Ten title game, where I think they got routed 59-0, and the Buckeyes went on to win the national championship. But I don't think that's a parallel at all. I think this is a much different scenario. Ohio State's gotten waxed twice this year. How do you see this game, and what do you think are the keys? Well,
I think the key is you just can't, and you say it all the time, you can't let a team like Wisconsin get ahead of you. Because once they do, they're just going to sit on the ball. I mean, Alex Hornibrook's a guy that, when put in high-pressure situations, he can turn the ball over.
Yes, he can.
But when asked to just simply get in and get out, hand the ball off, don't make mistakes, make the correct read at the line, and either hand it off or audible out of it, there's not too many that are more capable of than him across the country. So the line opened at 7, Bob. It's down to now, I believe, 5, as we talked about this on Tuesday. I'd take the points. I would. I think it's going to be a field goal game one way or the other. I'd like Wisconsin to win it. I could see Ohio State winning it. It does not feel like a blowout. If it is, it's a Wisconsin blowout. I don't think the Buckeyes blow out the Badgers in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think Wisconsin can win this game. A couple things that struck me when Penn State played Ohio State was the speed and the tempo of the Ohio State offense.
Right.
They don't need the ball a long time to score a lot of points. They play fast. They have tremendous talent at the skill positions, and they're very good rushing the passer with their front four. But Wisconsin kind of wants to play the physical game on offense. I think their defense is really, really good. They are a relentless bunch. Everyone wants to talk about their schedule. I still think they've been very impressive when presented some opportunities. They took control of the Michigan game. They just blew out Minnesota. They have a very talented running back. One thing I'm going to look for is how will Wisconsin be able to keep the ball for about 35 minutes? And I think ultimately it's going to come down to turnovers. You mentioned Hornibrook. I think if Wisconsin protects the football, does not make any big mistakes, I think they're going to be right there with Ohio State at the end. I think they probably want the game a little bit more than Ohio State. And I think that they're motivated by the fact that they're the underdog and they're unbeaten. They took Ohio State to the wire last year. They lost it overtime in Madison. I think it's going to be a really good matchup. It would not surprise me at all if Wisconsin won the game. One more piece of business to get to here on this Blitz. We've got to talk about Saquon Barkley and whether or not he is going to get an invite to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. I think the odds are definitely against him winning the award. The second half of the season probably just didn't go the way it needed to for Saquon to kind of grab the award by the throat. Baker Mayfield of Oklahoma looks to me like about close to a lock, even though he's had some issues, off the football field, a couple of them. But it would be nice to see if Saquon could get the invite to New York City. A lot of that will depend, I guess, on how the voting goes when they tabulate the votes. How do you see him, at least in the Heisman race, where he might finish, and where does he need to kind of finish maybe to get the New York City invite?
Yeah, I mean, to go back to Mayfield, I thought there's a guy that sends out updated betting odds every week, and when it came to the Heisman Trophy line, he said, no, it's off the board because Baker Mayfield was a 1-20 favorite last week, and he'd be even bigger of a favorite this week, and 1-20 is about as unprecedented as it gets. So he's already won the award. It's just a matter of where the voting shakes out below him. You're going to see Bryce Love from Stanford gets votes. Jonathan Taylor's going to get votes regardless. If he somehow runs all over Ohio State, he's going to plummet. He's going to shoot way up the list. The kid from Auburn, whose name escapes me at the moment, has jumped back into play. Lamar Jackson from Louisville last year. I mean, he has numbers that are very much on par to last season. So, I don't know, Bob. I think that it depends how close the voting is between 4 and 5, I think, and 3 and 4, of course, as well, for Saquon Barkley to get there, because he's almost been out of sight, out of mind in a lot of ways for a better part of a month and a half. Yeah,
a couple things. It shocks me that you get betting odds information.
Yeah, first time for everything.
I did not know that about.
I found my email.
I did not know that about you. That you would actually get some stuff like that. It's just very surprising to me. And as far as Barkley, the Heisman invitees, I believe they'll be announced either Sunday or Monday.
Is it Monday night during the Monday Night Countdown show before kickoff.
I really think he is worthy of an invite to New York City. You can look at the numbers with Saquon any way you want to. I just look at him. It's hard for me to believe there's a more talented running back in the country. The productivity wasn't quite there this year, but he's a game changer every time he gets the ball. I don't think the Penn State offensive line really did him any favors this year. But we'll see if Saquon gets the invite to New York City. And that looks like that's about it for this edition of the Penn State Blitz here on Penn Live. Remember to subscribe to Penn Live's Penn State channel on YouTube. It's youtube.com/allpennstate, and we will be back at some point to talk about more Penn State stuff, and Greg will have more betting information.